Good afternoon, everyone. Now today it is a, well, pretty nasty day. Cold, damp, foggy weather. Well, it's the end of January, but we need something to soothe the soul. And of course nothing helps better than some good comfort food. So what I'm going to be making today, it's going to be, well, my version of a macaroni and cheese. But the big difference is I don't work with either just cheese sauce or ham and cheese, but we're going to be making something with some meatballs inside. As you'll see, it's going to be a very basic cheese sauce, so we will make indeed another bechamel with some butter, some milk, flour, and we will also add in a little bit of onion, which is going to nicely balance out our cheese. And of course, well, one thing I have to add, I do say macaroni and cheese, but in all honesty, I try and do this. It's a recipe, well, that I learned from my mother, and she always uses penne, so that's what we're going to be using actually. Penne, not macaroni, but anyways, enough said, let's get cooking. First order of business, that'll be of course to roll out our meatballs. Now this is going to be not a bound meatball, but just basically, well, rolled up minced meat. And we will try and make this, well, pretty much as small as you can get away with. So, pretty much standard small soup, or for me at least, the size of a meatball that I use in my soup. Again, I'm not binding these. I don't really think that's necessary for the application. It will even, well, I'd say probably make the meatballs even a little richer, while this is of course already a pretty rich dish. So again, nothing too worrisome, just roll out our meatballs and we'll come back to our cheese sauce next. First port of call, that will be indeed to make our bechamel. Now as I said, I do want to put some onion flavor into my sauce. So what we will be doing as we're heating up our butter, that's actually going to be to grate in. So I do want some nice onion flavor, but I don't feel like having a lot of cut up onions into the sauce. I want a smooth sauce. So simple solution is to indeed, well, grate in your onion. So as you can see, our onion and butter mixture is actually starting to bubble up nicely. And of course, next thing to do, that will indeed be to add, well, I'm going to not make this a too thick roux, but I'm going to add about a good 3/4 of a tablespoon of flour. And of course we want to, there we go, incorporate this into our roux. Again, it's going to be a cheese sauce, and I don't like too much of a thick roux into my cheese sauce. I might just add a little bit more. There we go, so that makes a very slender tablespoon, if I do say so myself. But I think that should pretty much cover it. And we are ready, of course, to again see the magic of what is a basic bechamel. So, in the famous words of Chef John, hot roux, cold milk, no lumps. So again, as we keep stirring this, you're going to see our sauce come together. At which stage, of course, we are ready to add our add our cheese, sorry. As I said, the only thing that's left, that is to add our cheese. Now one thing I would like to advise, what I'm using here, well, I usually prefer to use freshly grated cheese if I can. Now for this type of dish, I am indeed using a, well, commercial pre-grated cheese, but I do know that it's, well, it doesn't contain any sawdust or any other nasty particles. is just a little bit of potato starch next to some grated cheese, but what I would advise is get something that's a little bit stronger. So something very mild or bland like a Gruyere or a Emmental. With the salty meatballs will not really shine as a sauce. So if you use something like what I'm doing here, which is actually an aged Gouda, you actually get a little stronger flavor from the cheese. It's a little more condensed, and you will get a better balance with your meatballs. Next port of call, that will be of course to well, fry up our meatballs. So you want these meatballs to get some nice lovely color, crust on them. And in the back we're already cooking our pasta as well. Now the only thing I would advise, I hope I don't have to give anybody instructions on how to boil pasta, but with your pasta you really want this pasta to cook through. So no al dente, at least not to my liking, but anything that you're gonna make an oven type of pasta, so an oven kind of bake, it tends to, well, dry out a little bit in the oven. So if your pasta is already a little, well, crunchy to begin with, you might end up with very crunchy pasta. So again, I want these meatballs to get some nice color, nicely cooked through, and then we can start assembling our dish. Our pasta is done cooking, so the only thing that's left, that is, well, to toss everything together. First thing I did forget to mention, of course, our bechamel or our sauce has been seasoned up with some of the standard. So indeed, some salt, pepper, and so we're gonna let this cook together. So some salt, pepper, and of course some nutmeg. As to our sauce, just to thin it and bind it a little bit better, I added a few tablespoons, of course, of the pasta water. And now I will be adding my meatballs, probably not all of them, so but a healthy dose of meatballs as well. That was not the idea. And again, I'm just using a gentle touch of heat, and you can see everything starts coming together into a lovely pasta. I think we should be pretty much, well, there. We've put everything into an oven-safe dish. Now, the only thing I forgot to mention, well, not the only thing, seems to be a running gag through this entire video. So, but I want to finish this off with a breadcrumb topping. So, all we will be doing is, of course, dispersing our breadcrumbs over top. There we go. And finish off with just a few small bits of butter. So as this hits the oven, this will of course melt. Now this will go into a warm preheated oven of, well, 180 degrees centigrade, or about 375 Fahrenheit. And after about 20 minutes, I will just put this under the broiler for a few more seconds so the breadcrumbs actually get to become nice and brown. Leave to rest for 5 more minutes and we're basically done. Our food just got out of the oven. We can let this rest for about 2-3 more minutes and then, well, it's dinner's ready. This is one of these dishes, for me at least, it's a very nostalgic thing. It's one of the favorite things that my mother used to make for me, and I think we all, at least if your mother was a decent chef, we all have a little soft spot for mother's cooking. Unfortunately, I can never seem to get the dish right exactly as she made it, but this is my version and it's pretty good. Sometimes, you know, dinner just doesn't, or food doesn't have to be complicated to be very good. I just advise, well, try this and enjoy, guys.